So, shooters and reloaders out there, Fortune Cookie 45LC coming to you from the Hot Lead Zone. And today's video, let's talk about something that's very favorite of our hearts, and that is brass. Specifically, we're going to talk about brass that we find at the range and pick up. Now, when we get brass from the big three, Winchester, Remington, Peters, or Federal, we just smile. But what about some other kinds of brass? Now, we're using 44 Magnum for the purposes of example here, but the comments apply to other calibers as well. Now, it's very likely that you'll pick up these two brands of brass at the range because the ammunition that generated this brass is a little more economical to purchase. So a lot of shooters shoot this kind of ammo, and one is PMC. PMC and its subsidiary, which is El Dorado ELD, or Starfire, this brass is made in South Korea. And then over here we see Magtech, which is CBC brand of brass, and that's manufactured in Brazil. Now, we're not talking about ammo manufactured in the third world. PMC is a major company. South Korea, the plants that manufacture the ammo are located in the eastern and central part of South Korea in very heavily industrialized areas of the country, and the companies are major. When PMC was founded back in 1968, the idea was to make South Korea completely self-sufficient and not dependent on any other countries for its ammunition needs. But since then, PMC has broadened itself to become an economic power in the marketplaces internationally, and PMC abides by the SAMI specifications for cartridges very closely, so that when you pick up this brass at the range, you can be sure of it being very suitable brass for our needs. And all PMC brass is reloadable. Now, on the right is Magtech. Magtech is CBC produced ammunition and brass. And you'll find a lot of Magtech at the range because we buy Magtech ammo from a lot of different outlets. At any rate, Magtech ammo and brass is made by the CBC company in São Paulo, Brazil. Now, that happens to be a major and very industrialized area of Brazil. Now, the São Paulo, Brazil area is actually very noteworthy because it is the 12th most populous city on planet Earth, and it is the biggest population center in the southern hemisphere. Located in the southeastern portion of Brazil, down where the country narrows, right on the ocean, the São Paulo area is also noteworthy because it is the home of Rossi and Taurus. Now, interestingly, there are a lot of reviews on Magtech brass, and some of them are negative. There are shooters reporting that the length of the brass varies a lot, and also the primer pockets are on the small side so that they're tight to reprime. However, I haven't found that to be a problem. Notice that when it comes to primer pockets, if you look at cellar below brass, it's supposed to be a large primer pocket, but you can actually see that the cellar below brass has a small primer pocket. It's small for a large primer. You can actually see that it's a smaller pocket. So cellar and below brass is really a pain in the neck to reload because large primers are tight getting in there. This is supposed to be a large primer pocket. So if you look at the primer pockets on CBC brass, they look pretty normal and they feel normal to reprime. So I found that both PMC, ELD, Starfire brass, PMC, or the CBC brass by Magtech, this all reloads very beautifully. And if you get this brass at the range, should go ahead and pick it up with full confidence. Now, to show you how these kinds of brass compare, I took some fairly new Winchester Western brass and fairly new Remington Peters brass, not my old stuff that I've been shooting so many times over and over again, but this is fairly new. Took 20 cases and weighed each one, and the Winchester Western gave me an average of 110.1 grains. The Remington Peters gave me 111.9 grains average. PMC gave us 113.5 grains average, and the CBC gave us 117.3 grains average for 20 cases. So you see the Winchester Western has the largest case capacity, but the CBC has the strongest brass. Now, the ranges were, the Winchester Western gave us 105 grains, the lightest one of the 20. 114 was the heaviest. So there was a 9 grain spread. That's a big spread. I don't know if we like that or not. However, we like Winchester brass. Now, Remington Peters gave us 107 lightest and 113 heaviest for a 6 grain spread. Coming in second best is the CBC Magtech that had the lightest 115 and the heaviest 119 for a 4 grain spread, but the PMC was the winner with 111 light and 114 heavy for only a 3 grain spread. So if you want more consistent, then the PMC brass will be the one to use. However, all 4 of these are very usable by any of us reloaders for 44 Magnum. So just give us an idea that the PMC and CBC brass is actually more consistent than some of our domestic brass, but that the brass has heavier walls and less case capacity, but not by much. Now, bear in mind that the formulation of brass might vary also to make up some of the difference in the total weights of the cases, that the alloy for the brass might be a little different one to another. So here you see we're priming a couple of the CBC cases. And they prime beautifully, no problem. And here we're priming a couple of PMC cases. And as you see there, no problem. Prime very well. Well, shooters and reloaders, there are many other companies and manufacturers, both domestic and foreign, that are trying to get market share in the big US market. And we might get brass from any of the following companies: CCI, Spear, Smith & Wesson, Barnes, LE, Fiocchi, IMI, Frontier, GFL, Starline, and Midway, among others that you might think of. But we'll pick up all this brass and it's all good because they stay with SAMI specifications. So shooters and reloaders out there, I found that almost all the brass that we pick up at the range is very usable and valuable to us The only problems I've had with range brass pickup is with cellar and below brass, which has the infliction of the smaller than specification primer pockets, but we can correct those by reaming them out. The other brass problems are from short Hornady brass that's from their FTX ammo, and that brass being short causes problems for us when we reload. But the correction for that is to separate the Hornady brass out so that we don't have to deal with it. See the short case there? That's a Hornady case. So shooters, reloaders out there, take care. Good reloading to all of you out there. Bye for now.